got to do the weekly school program one time, got to do the language classes. It was good, but not as good.
Not as good. So most of our meetings we do this way. We do them in person, and we do this option as well. Add some logistics. Yeah, that's right. That's the way to look at it.
Well, I thought I could get this to work.
If we just turn my ball, you back like that.
No, I got that. I was trying to get this closer to you so you could tap it.
Planning to have a big neighborhood program soon.
Well, we'll go ahead and get started. It's a pretty day. I know we all got yard work we need to do and leaves to rake and all of that kind of stuff. So and after Amy, are you set to record?
Yes.
All right. I don't need to do anything here then. All right. Well, thanks everybody again. Thanks for your time this morning. Thank you, Dr. Earpat, for hosting us here at Peace Ambassadors. And we're going to go through this information about traffic calming fairly quickly and get to the real meat of what we're here to talk about, which is our thoughts on Harlin Drive and your street. Some ideas we've had for that. But before we do that, I'm obliged to give you a little bit of information on the program, more basic information on the program. But I know I'm kind of talking to an above average audience here because y'all you live with traffic calming, one block over from you. And that may be part of why we're here this morning talking about it one street over on Harlin. I don't know. Come on in. Good morning. We're just getting started here. My name is Jeff Hammond. I'm a engineering consultant with an engineering firm called Birch Transportation. And this is Amy Birch. She's running the online meeting. You have the president of the company this morning. We represent NDOT, which is the Nashville Department of Transportation. So we're consultants working on behalf of the city of Nashville to help administer the traffic calming program and projects like this. Traffic calming fits into what is probably the hottest topic in transportation, whether it's on a local, state, or federal level, which is safety. There's been a huge push in trying to mitigate crashes and severe crashes, and so traffic calming is part of that. I know you don't have a ton of crashes on Harlin, thankfully, but this is one kind of quick, easy thing that the city can do to begin to try and foster safer transportation all over the city, whether it's on Thompson Lane, Nolensville Road. And sometimes when we talk about transportation safety, we put it in terms of needs, evaluation, engineering, enforcement, and education, and all those are really important. But we, with NDOT, really focus on the engineering part. Our task is to design and build and maintain safe streets. And so we really focus on that. We think it's the most important thing. And most people say that actually because putting things in the street or designing the street so that traffic will operate safely on that it really trumps everything in terms of getting people to slow down and drive safely. This program does focus on residential streets and really particular types of residential streets. We operate on things called local streets and not so much collectors, which have a little more traffic and a little bit higher speed, and not on arterials, which are the big roads like your Thompson Lanes and your Nolensville Roads. We do focus on physical solutions. We have found nothing slows traffic down like putting something in the street. We can put radar signs up, or we can put paint on the road and those kind of things. They may have some impact, but physical stuff works. We know it does. We're focused on reducing speeds as opposed to some cut-through traffic. We're not as focused on that. On some occasions, that'll be a little more of an emphasis, but we don't try to shift traffic. We try to keep it where it is and just slow it down, just get it to operate safely. And we don't do very small segments. Try not to. We try to look at the entire length of the street for consistency. We do focus street by street, not neighborhood by neighborhood. There's various reasons for that. We can talk about if you want. And we'll talk about limited resources. I'll show you that in just a second. Some other avenues for support that you might have. Sometimes people will contact the traffic calming problem, but really they want sidewalks or they want they got trash on the street or brush collection. All of those things we like to always plug of Nashville. If you're not familiar with it, it's the clearinghouse for all things Metro. You know, any request that you have goes through that. And then sidewalks, we have our walking and biking coordinator there, beautification. We've got contacts there as well. I mentioned the demand. Harlin was selected back in the summer as one of 24 streets, 24 street projects. That was out of over 400 that we had to choose from. So there is a tremendous demand for this program. That says, I guess, I don't know whether to say congratulations or I'm sorry, because your street was, high enough to warrant this attention. And so, anyway, it's just a very in-demand program. We can't do as many projects as we'd like to do. There's just not enough time. Harlin was selected based on some criteria. We collect speed data and look at that. We collect crash data and look at that. Those are the two biggest drivers of why Harlin was selected. But we also look at the absence of sidewalks. We know you don't have any sidewalks. That plays a part into it as well, as does the presence of other transportation facilities like transit on Nolensville Road, perhaps, or the presence of maybe Coleman Park was part of it. That got a park and school and stuff nearby. So all of that rolls into the score and has put Harlin there on the map. There's your speed data. It's 36 miles an hour. We look at something called the 85th percentile speed, which is just more than average traffic. Most of the traffic is at 36 or below, and you got about 500 cars a day on the street. That sounds like a lot. That for us is a pretty modest amount of traffic. That is not surprising. It's a 22-foot wide street. It's actually a little bit wider than Louise is, although Louise has striping, which I think makes it look a little narrower. It's pretty close to the same width there. And that does come into play when we start laying out the recommendations for the street. I'm going to stay over here closer to the microphone. So Harlin Drive, we are going from Louise up here where we are now down to Drake. I guess this end is a little bit more definite terminal. I'm not sure exactly where it changes into Drake. It's somewhere right around the curve there. But we're running the entire length of Harlin, however we define that. And I put this up here just to show you some of those other types of streets. Y'all are familiar. So Thompson Lane, Knowles, well, those are collectors. That's why they're in red. So you're arterials, the purple one here. I think that may be McCall is a collector street. McCall is like a residential street, but it's a collector. So that's those are kind of gray areas for us. But Harlin is squarely a residential local street. So next part, I'll just run through some of the tools in our toolbox. You would certainly be forgiven if you thought this was the speed cushion program. That's 90+% of what we do is put speed cushions on streets. This is kind of our go-to tool. And that's for a couple reasons. One, it's known. These are manufactured. We always use the same manufacturer. We know exactly what we're getting and how it performs. And secondly, they work. We have good experience with them. So anyway, but y'all are familiar with this. You've got them on Louise. You've got them on Veritas around the corner. There's several sets not too far away. And we use that same product almost all the time. We do have some ability to lengthen those, to make them longer in the direction, and that tends to not slow traffic down quite as much. So, we're looking at a little bit higher speed, and we can modify that in certain ways. One of the ways we modify it is this type of a configuration. We don't use these often, but occasionally, circumstances call for a speed table, which is just a flatter top, and then of course you don't have the brakes in those. I guess I should mention here the reason for the brakes is predominantly for emergency vehicles. So that lets a wider wheelbase vehicle through there a little bit easier. So if fire truck's in a hurry, we want to let them get where they're going as quickly as possible. I mentioned these. We do use these sometimes, again, largely on higher volume streets where we don't want to put something in the middle of the road. So we put some of these recently in Creep Hall, not too far away. Striping is something that we do, again, to visually narrow the street, kind of give the indication of the slower speed. You see that here. Sometimes it's done in partnership with bike lanes and those kinds of things. It's usually a little more of an urban treatment. Traffic circles is something we use occasionally. The circumstances have to be really just right. It's got to be a big intersection with a lot of asphalt out there. And anyway, we use those occasionally. Chicanes is another very urban treatment where we have a couple of neighborhoods that have had these for some time actually, and we're relooking at those, and it kind of mimics an on-street parking type of a configuration. If you're in Germantown or East Nashville or Woodland Waverly, some of these very urban streets where there's constant parking along the street, they almost operate like a yield street. We rarely are called to do traffic calming on those streets because they're very slow. You can't safely drive, and people get that. And this tries to mimic that type of a configuration. So where we are today, this is meeting one. You've already applied, you've been selected. We're at meeting one. After today, depending on what we hear, we'll go back and modify the design that I'm going to show you in just a second. We'll get back together and do meeting two. There may not be much to meeting two. It may just be kind of reconfirming the design. And then we go to an online ballot. And after we look at the plan, I'm going to show you a little bit more about that online ballot, because that has been that was a change since we were over at Nice. It's a different process now. So this is what we've got on Harlin here. There's one change that I would point out, that up here, this is right. Down here on the south end, there is one more set of speed cushions just north of MacGyver here. And I showed you those. We typically don't show, but I wanted to show for comparison what you have on Louise. So I spotted those in with the addition of one more set there, just for comparison.
So you're thinking of putting the same location?
I'm thinking a little bit more, and the reason why is because Louise is split by Morton, which is an all-way stop. You don't have that, so you've got one continuous free flow street all the way down. And so what we typically do is look for 400 to 600 feet in between speed cushions, so that we get a good continuous slow speed. It's not long enough for someone to hit a set of speed cushions and speed up to get to the next one. We're trying to avoid that. And at the same time, we don't want you going over them every 50 feet. It gets really old. We wouldn't want to do that to you either. So we're looking at 6 sets along we're going to stay out of the curves at either end, but once we get around that curve, we would start that progression again at 400 to 600 feet. These are addresses roughly about where we're thinking those would be, but I will say this street has a lot of driveways. And so one thing that we don't want to do is put a set of speed cushions right in front of somebody's driveway. We try to keep them at least 15 feet on either side. So this little thing means something here, that just keep that in mind. When we get out and start doing our detailed layouts, we may have to drop one, we may have to shift one. We're going to avoid street intersections and driveways. You don't have many intersections, but you do have driveways. You don't have hills. You've got some rolling. We stay off of real steep slopes, but I don't see anything here that's going to keep us from doing that. And so anyway, that's what we're looking at. And by comparison, again, you have 4 sets on Louise plus an all-way stop. So we kind of say sort of 5 different treatments, and we're proposing 6 on this.
I guess that's not.
Yeah, you may say that's too many, or you may say, that's really all I have to show you. That's it. That's the plan. I told you when we go to most neighborhoods, this is what most neighborhoods, are seeing is series of speed cushions. Pretty effective.
Are they currently a big street?
Yes, sir, they are. They come and they do 2 things. There's an epoxy that goes on it, and then they run steel pins about that long down into the pavement all around they come in sections, so they're kind of pieced together like a puzzle. And then they don't look like it. They look like three big pieces of rubber,
Right.
but they put those together and bolt them on. We've had really good success with maintenance. You know, we've got some that are probably 10, 15 years old that still look great. You know, some people ask about, y'all probably are not plowed, I would imagine. Snow, right, the street probably doesn't get snow plowed. But, so that comes up sometimes, but your garbage trucks are gonna hit them, your FedEx trucks, you know, occasionally you're gonna have big trucks go over them, so that's okay. They're built for that. I don't imagine you get too much truck traffic, but
I like the 6 of them instead of less, because if you got less, it gives that person, especially the younger ones, to speed up. So if you got 6 or more, they're going to continue to understand that this street, we better go over to the next street to go fast as we want to.
and that may be,
I want to be cautious, but I don't want to be annoying.
Yeah,
I gotta respect with my neighbors as
you
well.
got too many kids, especially like Halloween.
But we're starting a big school here too, so that's one of the main reasons.
There's kids in the neighborhood. If you ain't got Halloween candy coming up, they come out of the woodwork. And kids run off the street with costumes on. Families, I see in front of my house pushing people. Absolutely. And one of the things I know for a fact, I know at least 2 people who would normally go down different bumps, so they just take the roundabout road 40 miles an hour.
We did that a lot.
I wondered if that we might not hear that because of, you know, you guys are really close and most streets kind of get you the same place. And I anticipate that may be the case. We don't have any way to test that and prove it, but I wondered if that's not part of it. But by the way, we show because of your width, your configuration would look a lot like this right here. Of course, you don't have the center line, but it would be 2 side by side. Just like you're not wide enough to need the 3. Oh no.
We do. You don't have to worry too much in the winter time.
There is one drop, which is right here, the intersection of Louise and Harlin. That's the only drop we have, which we have issues in winter. Walker Lumber or Street just purchased those 3 properties to the left. All of them most likely would become a lumber yard.
Right off of Nolan, or right off of
Actually,
Louise.
Louise and Harlin.
It's the corner. It's the corner.
So right, there's a house they just removed. I think they can build duplexes. The issue, the reason we applied, we're the one who filled out the application, is we have a plan to have a preschool in the first floor. It's a community center. We have a lot of programs and a lot of families that come. We got hit hard during Corona, so we basically pretty much closed for 2 years. Not totally closed, but all the programs stopped. We are going to remove that house, and that's going to be a parking lot area be added to this building. And this building also will be redone with a new facade. I have some concerns with some neighbor. One of them is Eric across the street. He doesn't want one right in front of his house. He just mentioned something. It's not going to be in front of your driveway. So I would rather, since there is no houses in that area, except Eric, to start from our property upward. So from Peace Ambassadors all the way down. I don't know.
So I wanted to see, is this is us right here, right? So we don't start any until we clear this turn and start on the straightaway. So you're here, the stuff you're talking about back here, we don't have anything planned all the way around the corner until we get to 29, 26.
We don't have anything here. We're gonna have a lot of kids in here. Wouldn't that slowing down
From that direction, but you know, I would imagine most of I don't know where your kids will come from. I would guess most of them are coming from this direction on Louise, just given the fact that that's how you come from Nolensville Road and from Thompson Lane and so forth. Yeah. So we can look at that. You know, if there's something, but with all of that influx, that may be something else we want to take a look at.
Yeah.
There will be, yes, sir. What we normally do is, because there aren't any intersecting streets, we'd put one sign here going this direction, and then one sign here going this direction, and then here and here.
What I was thinking was, I mean, somebody coming off of a really cool line, they're not gonna speed up 40 miles an hour.
I don't think so. Right.
Or your van.
We could.
And there's a ditch here,
One in here, there's a big-
and we've had a lot of accidents, a lot of people killing there. There's no right here. I'm here today. The concrete thing was broken for 10 years. We keep having them falling in that place. I don't know if they're drunk or not, but it's not once, it's not twice. As a matter of fact, last year when they built there, stayed there for 4 hours, and then they pulled. Somebody came and pulled them out. So 3 police cars, a fire truck, others didn't even bother to make a report, I guess. And the person just came and parked in here, and obviously he was drunk. We saw the camera. He drove against the wall. He actually broke the front door, and the police did nothing. So that trench,
And that's coming around the outside of this curve.
yes, it's right. We have right here. That's all interesting.
Yeah, we'll look and see if there's curb sign, warning signs, chevrons, those little things that mark along the outside of a curb, if any of that's warranted.
There's a ditch right by and walking over. That was more dangerous.
Did you hear just what you said? That guy was drunk. He's not paying
It's
attention
not,
to
but,
anything.
yeah, but see, that's just one example. We've had so many.
And speeding.
Some other- Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know what happened. It's just not once.
Well, they may be texting. But a lot of these things here that's going on is people's forgetting one thing. You're talking about the children being here in the neighborhoods. We're not talking about the children, because if you look, what we're talking about in East Drive, if you look at Harlin that does not have a width on their roads, there's no sidewalks, never will be sidewalks. They need to talk about striping the road, because when a car is coming, he sees speed humps. What in your mind? I don't want my car to go over there. He goes over here. What if that child's right there at night? And when you're walking anywhere in Nashville, with Go Bike Nashville, this is the big issue. They need to stripe. They need to stripe before they put these things down. Because people take their cars and don't want to go over. But when you start doing this, you're taking that path up for the persons in this room who walk this street. You just said earlier, they come with baby carriages. I've seen that. They walk their animals. Where are they going to walk? They're in the road. But if a car's coming, he don't know which way to really stay. He needs a boundary. And the people who are walking knows that if they're on this white side of that line, it's a striping needs to be. And a lot of these old roads, you can't even see them anymore.
We have a lot of families that want to walk every day with their babies. I see them every day.
Because you're advocating so much money per street. And you've got to speak of what you want on this street. It ain't just these measure types here. If you've got something else that you want to see, the flashing lights or this, that, and other, this is the man and the woman you need to talk to about. We've been working with Mixed Drive for over 42 years.
Yeah.
And we've met back in May.
We think so.
Still
So we think we're close.
we
We understand the cushions on that one are in hand. They've been ordered. A lot of this stuff was apparently sitting on a ship out in LA, Port LA or something. But anyway, yeah. So it will take some time. I'll talk more about the process from this point, but good comment. Yes.
Is there a reason there isn't a stripe out there now?
That's a good question. It's usually based on how much traffic is on the street, sometimes speed, usually volume of traffic. So we mentioned before you got here, this street has 450. I can't tell you what the cars a day, 450 cars a day. I can't tell you what the threshold is, but I just know it's sort of like when you get to a certain level, at some point a center line is warranted. This street doesn't have edge line. Louise has both. And so we typically don't advocate at least a center line, because to a lot of people, what a center line indicates is higher speed's a little bit okay here. I mean, it's more traffic. It's more like that collector we were talking about. Whereas if you have edge lines or nothing, it really communicates this is a local street. There's not much traffic here. So it's a psychological thing. I don't know. I can't give you the empirical data to prove that, but that's what we typically recommend and what a lot of neighborhoods kind of opt for. Edge lines could be in play. I mean, if you feel like that's something and we want to visually narrow that a little bit and set it so that it's like 20 feet from the edge line, you're never going to have enough to really feel like I've got a safe place to walk. The street's just not wide enough. It's about 22 feet. So like on Louise, if you just visualize that without a center line, it might feel something like that. It might be a good recommendation. You would have like a little 1 foot kind of a shoulder area on both sides. Places that you still gonna set your garbage can on it, and that kind of stuff. It doesn't change much about how the street works, but that might make you feel a little, give you that a little bit of a cushion there.
The people who walk on that street, just say they kind of come over on that white line over. They see the car coming.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want that car to keep coming over, knowing that they still got the grass line to drive on. That's what really is just. When you don't have room, you just got to measure, just like you're doing with here. And I was looking at Harlin Drive here, and it's pretty top on the list. And it's about speed. It's about speed on this street. That 25 is just a suggestion. Nobody thinks this. Well, nobody reads the sign. We're in a different age of telephones now. Most of the time, if you go down the road, 5 out of 10 people are looking down. They're not looking at you.
Well, and Harlan's a very straight street, usually a long way down it, so you're okay. Your setbacks aren't huge, but it's more than like we were talking about the most urban neighborhoods. You're kind of you're starting to get to more of a suburban type of a land use where your setbacks a little more, and the bigger the setback you have, the more that wide open space you get. Usually we see higher speeds there, so you're kind of in between.
So we can never have a sidewalk.
I wouldn't say it's never, but it's going to be a while. Just funding. Sidewalks are incredibly expensive.
$5 billion.
We usually put it in terms of linear feet. So I think if you're doing a big capital sidewalk project where you got to do stormwater and all, which is most of them, I'd say $600 to $700 a linear foot. I don't know what that comes out to a mile, but it's a lot. It's probably more than $1 million a mile.
If you put sidewalks in, and I'm thinking like the Green Hills, West Mead, where you got a lot of, I'm not sure how much it's would sidewalks interfere with drainage, stormwater, and that type of thing?
Well, they don't interfere with it because you have to build a stormwater system. Yeah, so right now all your stormwater drains off the road into your ditches and it flows. With a sidewalk, that is interfered with, but to account for that, you build a curb and a gutter and inlets, and then it drops down into a pipe under the road, and that pipe is running along. Instead of your ditch, it's now a pipe. That's why you have to start getting into right-of-way acquisition most of the time, moving the water lines and sewer lines that are already there. All of that's usually relocated. It's kind of a chain reaction about stuff. When you sink that big pipe on the edge of your road, the deal's all, everything starts changing at that point. Telephone poles are moved back. That's where your costs come. Right. It's stormwater that drives sidewalk projects. If we didn't have to deal with that big pipe on the edge of the road, build a lot more sidewalks.
For NDOT or any engineering firm?
We're the firm. We're consultant. What other questions or comments on that? Is Edgeline something we need to add into this plan?
I do believe. Defines the street. It's also psychology.
Yeah. So be like that.
Don't think you're on the phone. When you prefer video.
And at night gives you a little more dark, rainy night, it, you know, they reflect, it gives you some guidance. Pretty good.
Their next door neighbor is mailbox. So it can run over. Tries to be different,
Yeah.
whatever, but
I don't disagree.
And most people are telling you, some of them tell you the truth, I was on my phone.
Yeah.
Right. I had someone run over my, next she was cutting the yard, she's 86 years old. She went back toward this way, he come right through her, knocked the mailbox, landed up in the yard. He said, it's my fault, I was on the phone. He was texting.
I'm gonna have to get on the mailbox when you're done with the break.
Whatever, you-
There was-
something else people need to know, wherever your water meter is, that's Metro's land. So if you build something out there, just remember, it's not yours. It's temporary. Even your mailbox is not yours.
Right.
You know, you still, it's the city's. Wherever your water meter is, that's how far they can come out and take that road if they need. It's everywhere in every part of the country.
I don't know what y'all's right away is, probably maybe 50 feet. It's usually measure like 25 feet off the center line.
Just a one. And the edges would be enough.
Could be 40. Let's talk a little bit about the ballots, because like I said, we'll add that, and if there aren't any other suggestions, we'll take a look at this curve too, and there may be some curve signage and things that we need to look at around here. We'll come back, we'll present that, y'all will say, we like it, let's go. The ballot process begins at that point. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna send everybody, just like we sent did everyone get a card for this meeting? People got the card. Those do go to the property owner, not necessarily who's living in the house. We'll send a very similar card out with a little QR code. Got a picture. It'll look very similar to what you got. QR code, except this code will take you straight to a Metro Nashville.gov balloting page where you'll put in your name. The card has a little code down at the bottom, so we know that the right people are voting for the project, who they are, who they say they are. You'll vote yes or no, and we're looking for 66% approval. So in the past, what it was one of you, the champion, you were the applicant, so you would have had to go out and y'all figure out how you wanted to do this and go door to door and get 70% of the people. Y'all did it on me. And get 70% of the people, of everybody. The problem we were having is, some of the owners, they don't live here, they're in California or wherever. It was really difficult. So this way, we send that out, and we're only looking for 66% of the people who vote. So if not very many vote, we don't need very many, but that allows us to give a definite 6-week end of balloting period. And at the end of 6 weeks, we know where we stand. So in the past, we were toiling many months with people who were working hard and just not getting very far. I'll show you who we send those cards to. I think I've covered all the rest of that. So we will send it to the owners of these properties, in this affected area. We're not going to ask the people who live on the side street, even though they may encounter these speed cushions. Y'all are a little bit different in that really the only people who should probably be on the street are residents of it. You're kind of going out of your way to cut through on the street,
Person, you said that you're going to send the ballots to the owner of the property.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know. So if people in California, they don't get the ballot. Do they?
They do not.
They don't have the legal authority.
It's just a policy. That's
Well,
how
they may not be there, so if it's rental, they may not months to a year, so that's fine.
We've been here so long.
The seller pays the tax.
The property tax. Do most people here rent or own?
I don't know.
I'd say so.
It's a mix.
So our experience is kind of, if you live somewhere else and you're like, if you're in Nashville, you may care and want to vote, but if you live in Michigan or something, we don't see a lot of responses. They just don't vote, but that doesn't count against you. That's kind of why we went to this policy. Makes it easier, yeah. Yeah, so we put about, Amy, do you remember how many we put to the ballot? It's about
20?
So I would say 15 or 20. Only one has failed today. Most of them. occasionally we'll get in the neighborhood and there's kind of a groundswell of opposition. They say we don't see the issue with the big problem and it's just too much of an inconvenience. We see that, but by and large, when we get to this point, people are pretty supportive.
You would be in communication with us, letting us know when that help, so I could go door to door. Basically,
yeah.
From the beginning to the end of the street.
We can. Yeah, but
But
you know,
also, while I'm doing that, I could also be collecting some data. I wonder who's doing.
Before everybody leaves, you might want to do that now.
Yes, I would.
And y'all can come up and go door to door. That's what we did.
Yes.
We got with neighbors and said, look, the only thing's gonna change if we stick together like glue. And that's what, because when you came to our, we had 100%. We didn't have one sticking out there. We got everybody in and said, look, we're gonna have refreshments, we're gonna have.
Even the renters, we could get the phone numbers of the owners, try to communicate with them.
And if not, you can always, it's public records to find out who owns it.
We encourage that. You know, the more talking y'all do, and you know, you got social media pages for the street or whatever you want to do. That's great. It's not required though now. It was required. You guys did it under a different rule, and you had to go do that. Now you don't. But it's a good idea. We see more success coming in for neighborhoods that do get out and promote it and talk about it.
All houses except one house. You know what I'm talking about.
What's the red line?
So this is a tool that we use. The question is, what's the red line through these yellows? If you can see that, this is a tool that we use. It's on the Metro Planning Department, and it's a make your own mailing list tool. It's on Nashville.gov. That's just where we draw the properties we want to include, and then it selects those. It's just a tool. I know it's not very good. They are, yeah. That's what we draw, and then it selects the whole property, and then we can export it. And that's how you all got it card.
By the way, didn't get caught.
Maybe it's not a residential property. Yeah, so we if we got vacant properties, we know they're vacant, or at least Metro's tax rolls think that they vacant property. We typically don't send one to them if we know it's under construction. Sometimes we'll get LLCs or something that have bought 4 properties and they're building, 8 tall skinnies there, but they're not done. Nobody owns them except the LLC. We don't typically send them to them if they're under construction. We're really trying to focus on.
But wouldn't that affect the percentage?
Doesn't affect the percentage, it would affect the actual number, but no, because again, we're only looking at of the population of votes that come in, who voted. It's just the actual. It's just like a real election. Yeah. I think our response rate is probably better than a presidential election. on a lot of streets, we're what are we at 50-60% on some streets of response rate? Not all of them. Some of them are much lower, but yeah, we do better than when we vote for president. Any other questions? I don't want to hold anybody unnecessarily, but I'm glad that.
Just out of curiosity, efficacy wise, on the said that our 85th percentile is 36 miles an hour. What kind of reduction do you see with that?
Good question. So at the location of each device itself, we usually see about 15 to 20 miles an hour. As cars slow down to go over that. Now they are going to speed up some, but we're shooting for that 20 to 25 consistent speed through there, and we're seeing about that. We do have some data, but it's a little bit hard to know exactly, because it's very dependent on where you're taking that. But yeah, we're getting speeds down into 20 to 25 on most streets. It's not going to solve every issue. You're going to have that motorcycle that's still going to take it through there. You're still going to have a kid. It may be in a big truck. It may be in a small car, and they're just going to hit it way too fast. This is not foolproof. Yeah, but by and large, most of your drivers are going to see this and be like, I don't want to hit that fast. And I think especially on this street. Like if the issue was because we have speed cushions on Louise, they came over here, they're probably going to go back to Louise. Because again, this is out of the way for most people. There's really no reason to jog over it, except for the fact that right now it's wide open. So I think if we, just do a little something, it'll probably push your worst problems. I hope it'll just take care of them, and not they'll put them back on.
Is it like I see this below that stop sign? Not even.
Not even slow down. That's why we don't use stop signs as part of traffic calming. You know, that's a traffic control device and not it's looked at a little bit different from federal, from legal, standpoint, but yeah. Signs are good, and stop signs are probably the best sign you can put up, but still we see that all the time. Well, thank you very much. Again, appreciate your time, and thanks again for hosting us. And,
We'll be holding a second meeting.
yeah, and we'll be holding a second meeting. We'll reach back out. We'll do the same kind of card. Gil Thomas, who you've probably been dealing with at Metro, he's coordinating with Dr. Arafat and with Council Lady Welch and organizing these and getting the date, and getting the location. So we'll reach back out to him. We don't need much time now. We are scheduling out probably to late, maybe early December at this point. We're going to start getting in the holidays. If we could do our second meeting before we get, Christmas time, it would be great. So we'll shoot for that, but no guarantees.
The balance would be after.
They would be after the second.
So how long? The second meeting, early December, early January, the passive, how long?
Good question. You're gonna check me here because on Leeds Drive, we had this meeting back in May, but then there was some time to do the ballots, and we ordered them. It's the ordering. It's the biggest time is lead time to get the material. Metro does not stock these things. We kind of wish they did. There's just not a lot of space. Metro doesn't own a bunch of space to go stock a bunch of stuff. So when we put that order in to the group's called Traffic Logics, it's taken us, it's been taking us 3 to 4 months to get these things. So that's the biggest chunk of time to do that.
Get contracted.
Yeah. And so once we have the material, then we have to get on the contractors list. Contractor names Curve. What they do mostly is stripe roads. And so they do a lot of TDOT striping and a lot of Metro striping. The good part about this is if we are kind of in mid to late January, we're still in winter months, they're probably not striping a lot of roads. Striping is very finicky. It's got to be above 50 degrees. And so if it's wet and rainy like it is a lot during the winter, they can still put these cushions. So I don't think we'll have a lot of lead time once we get the material. We can probably get on Curve's list pretty quick, get them installed. But best laid plans, you know how it goes. So we've been waiting some time on the speed cushions. We do have them in house, but we're putting a bunch of them in right now. I wish I could give you a more definite answer, but they say it's supply chain stuff, like everybody. We're on the list. Yeah, we're moving.
Took a phone call with me and I had a cell phone. So I called him. I said, Mr. Mayor, I'm fed up. So I did this. So many cars speeding. I have a lot of kids and something needs to be done. So one of his helpers contacted me and then they contacted me with NDOT. That's how the process started.
Okay.
So we gotta use our politicians for our own. I think we work as one group. We have a plan to build some benches right here by the side with those who walk, a nice umbrella, a bulletin board. Maybe down the road we all agree we could do I don't know, Facebook page or something that we could communicate with. We would be communicating with you as well, give you the ability to utilize this facility for events and programs and stuff like that. So community. We've been trying, but because we're nonprofit, totally funded on donations, our assets are very limited. So the Lord willing, we will be in contact with you. Let's work as a team. And if you guys have suggestions, ideas, it's our street. And we appreciate these people coming here and out of the weekend holiday. Yeah. Glad to do it. I appreciate you all being here. You remember the mayor's show. Because he doesn't mind. He does not mind cutting that off. Yeah.